It is the dawn of a new Ultimates era, but also the end of the Krakoan era. This is a massive week for comic book fans in all corners of the industry. And we are excited to talk about all the books we have on docket today. We've got
Count them.
six big books this week, and we've got four
Count them.
pals. Hello, Cale.
What's up, hot dogs?
Marco.
Marco contains multitudes.
Tyler.
I was going to quote that when we talk about Birds of Prey. All right, it's fine.
Damn it.
And I'm Sean. And the six books we're talking about today are Ultimates #1, X-Men number 35/700. I had to go with this cover.
Yeah.
Good. That's good.
And like the wraparound cover they had was good on digital. Like I liked it. But this one is just like it's perfect.
Yeah, hate to see them go, love to see them leave,
Way.
Batman 148. Birds of Prey 10. We got a double dose of Kelly Thompson because we've got Birds of Prey, but we've also got Scarlet #1. And
Kelly
we have
Thompson Power Hour.
Right. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha, which was the winner of the poll. So we've got books from how many different publishers? 1, 2, 3, 4 different publishers this week. So that's kind of cool.
Damn.
Wow.
4 publishers, 4 pals.
4 publishers, 4 pals, 6 books, and all of you. Thank you so much for joining us to hang out today. Big week for comics. Let us know what you picked up. What's in your stack this week? We're going to get to mine a little bit later. Let's kick things off with Ultimates #1. This is, of course, written by Dennis Camp, getting the big job. I would say this is one of the biggest jobs in comics right now, and they gave it to a young upstart, so congrats to him out the gate, with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee, letters by Travis Lanham. So this is the beginning, not of the Ultimate Universe, but of the mission of the Ultimates. We've gotten some of their stuff seeded throughout different things. We had the Free Comic Book Day Ultimate Universe special that showcased them again. But this one gives us a real introduction into the team's mission statement, 18 months to save the world. Basically, the Ultimates have to prepare the world for the re-emergence of the Maker and all of the people, all the characters that were trapped in that dome, who are advancing thousands of years ahead of us, or however, hundreds of years, whatever it is, while, a few short months pass in our timeline. And they don't have much to work with because most of the heroes, nearly all of them, who would have been born, who would have discovered their powers, something was taken from them by the Maker. So if you've been reading Ultimate Spider-Man, you know that he was denied being bitten by the spider, which then led to him having a perfectly normal Peter Parker life, right? And now he's been granted his destiny by Tony Stark, and now he is Spider-Man. And so that same process is what the Ultimates want to replicate to essentially build a resistance for when the Maker returns. And that's what this issue kind of showcases. Was it the revolution? Was it the big difference that it needed to be the flagship book of this line and also meaningfully differentiate it from the Avengers?
I've actually read the Ultimates. The only thing of sort of the Ultimate era that I've have, and the most immediate thing was, I think, I'm experiencing something similar that you guys have mentioned, which is an unfamiliarity with the team. And I kind of sat there for a second going, I shouldn't be grumpy about this because I made a whole point about it's different in this, but I kind of want to see the team that I recognize. I'm a little grumpy about it. And I think the camp carried me along and through that. But maybe I expected a bit more in terms of consequences that come out of this, because it was very reactionary to something that's already happened. and I didn't feel like the initial Ultimates was necessarily a reaction as much as it was a coming together of something. And so this almost felt ancillary, and the I would imagine the Ultimates still shouldn't feel like that.
I don't know if we could even say the word should in this because it is so different. I think it's wildly different from what the Ultimates was, but it's strangely not too different from what the Avengers are. As Marco just unplugs himself. Hold on, I gotta fix this real quick. So, and then he comes right back. All right, and then so it's not too different from what the Avengers are, because it's kind of using the 616 as this blueprint that they're trying to re-engineer. So, and that's the text of the story. So that being the kind of premise for it kind of separates it even more so from the Ultimates than the actual 616 universe.
Yeah, I guess for me, what really made this stand apart was sort of the methodology in the way that Reed and Tony are tasked with building their own world, and recreating their own superheroes and taking that upon themselves, and Cap's like, that's just not gonna work. And that is, I think, what I found the most interesting. Because other than that, it's really just kind of a team number one.
I gotta say, I found this to be refreshing. I found this to be incredibly exciting. I did think it was revolutionary. I was blown out by this. Um, you know, it stands as an antithesis almost to the original Ultimates, a government sponsored group of heroes. This is an anti government group of heroes. This is a group of heroes. When you encompass when you add, like, Cap, not so much, but I think when you add, Hank and Janet to the mix, um, and I'm sure others that will join the fray later, what we're getting is a story about, people who are around our age, like our actual human ages, whose futures were stolen from them. And I think that that's something that a lot of people our age feel. Like when we were kids, there was something about the world that was special that isn't special anymore. There was a promise of our future that is no longer promised anymore. The future came and it sucks. And it almost feels like we were denied our destiny. And so I think this book and this vision that Hickman and everybody else have is is fighting back that. It's fighting that back. It's taking back what was taken from us. And I think what could be more revolutionary than that? And that's not why the Avengers exist. That's not why the Ultimates exist, the OG Ultimates, but it's why these Ultimates exist. And I love that this first issue is a mission statement that separates this team and validates it from both other versions of this that we're used to.
I like that a lot.
And
Actually.
I also like how our, I guess, POV characters in this, our newbies to the team, are Janet Van Dyne and Hank Pym. And there's a distinct like a mission statement to differentiate Hank Pym because his history in the comics is rough, and they recognize that in this. I was going through some of the issues I have behind me, and I almost put on the Trial of Yellow Jacket. Like, that's a thing that happened with Hank Pym and their relationship together. If you have the opportunity to wipe that slate clean with this Ultimate Universe, you take that, because Hank Pym is a great character, but now it's a new character at the same time. And I really like that. I also like he's a bit chubby, which you don't really see in terms of character designs, which I also enjoyed.
He's also a character who is now going to have in his mind what his weaknesses are from 616, the mistakes that he's made, the ways in which he doesn't live up to his potential, the ways in which he fails Janet, creating Ultron. He has this legacy that is dark, and he has a chance to right wrongs that he didn't even make, which is a mind fuck in and of itself. But I think it does create a potential to redeem this character in the minds of the readers, and he can become a true blue hero who we can all root for. I think it's hard to root for Hank Pym in 616 because whenever he gets a spotlight, people will always go back to, oh, but he hit Janet. So that character is sort of dead in that way. But here, there's a new chance for him. And I just think that that's such a brilliant stroke. And it makes it so juicy and interesting.
And then you add the layer of the head trauma that he's had. Like they mentioned that, and he has a scar on his forehead, which kind of justifies maybe why he isn't a scientist as well. Because it's the same character. Maybe he's just not as smart because he's been dealing with, actual physical issues.
I also would point that toward what Sean was saying about, a future that was stolen from these characters. If they, in this book, Hank and Janet are exterminators. They're doing regular guy blue collar jobs.
Right,
She's
exactly.
not a fashion designer. He's not a super scientist. Because they have to live the way we live.
It's like the idea of like a formerly gifted child, who
Yeah,
now
absolutely.
works retail.
What could have been.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a pretty unique and interesting team. We've seen pretty much everybody. The only new characters in this particular issue are Hank and Janet, and I guess Cap. If you didn't read the Free Comic Book Day, I think that's where he debuted. I like that this Captain America is not the traditional Ultimate Captain America. I was worried that that would carry over, and I'm very happy to say that it doesn't. He has a really great scene, what I thought was a great scene, where they're in the middle of this big battle with Captain Britain and everything else, and Cap is on the sidelines talking to Hank, like, hey, man, I understand your fear. I get your trepidation, but there's something inside of you that knows that this is right for you. Because if you didn't, you would have gotten rid of Tony's gift, what Tony tried to give you. You would have gotten rid of that, but you didn't because you know that this might be for you. So step into your future. Don't be afraid.
And
He's still inspiring.
That's Captain America's real superpower, honestly. It's inspiration. And I think
Yeah.
that alone, because like Cap doesn't really get much play outside of that, and that bit of a joke when he comes out of the ice. But that alone is such a good dilution of who Cap is as a character, and I thought that was expertly used in this issue.
You know what else is funny about that? I don't know if it's such a big deal to you guys over there, but over here, people are celebrating it like crazy. Today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Ah.
And so, all of the news over here is just full of, people are on the beaches of Normandy and they've got like the survivors and the veterans and it's a big, they're making a big stink out of it, as they should, I guess. But it's, it was funny sort of reading that and kind of coming back to Cap in that moment of just being like, yeah, this dude's from World War II, like, and he's saying, here's your future.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude. Badass. And if you're not convinced that this is a story about, I don't know what to call us. Not certainly we're not middle-aged, but like our age group of people, whatever we're called.
And we're millennials.
Right?
Millennials.
It sounds derogatory now, but yeah.
Well,
like
that wasn't our fault.
if you're not convinced that this is a story about millennials, trying to reclaim what was taken from them and undoing the mistakes of our parents and our predecessors, you don't need to look further than the letter that Tony writes to his father, which I thought was heartbreaking and just a great piece of writing on the part of Camp. But it also underscores the entire point. Howard Stark, for all his genius and brilliance, didn't prevent the world from going to shit. You know, he didn't do the right things, not just for the world at large, not just for the world outside his home, but for the world inside his home. He didn't do the right things by his child, by his wife. You know, he failed. And Tony, the child, has to pay the price for the sins of his father. And we all are affected by that, whether it's in a literal sense or in a more figurative sense about the things that our predecessors didn't do right for the world. You know, we always talk about, like, for example, global warming and how we have to handle that horse shit and what the next generations have to deal with. And the reason is because people before us don't care. They didn't do enough. The world, they're going to leave the world, and they're leaving it to us, and they're leaving it in a shit state. So I just think all that subtext is brilliant. A lot of it is actual text. I think Dennis Camp did a fire job with this issue. What about the art?
I love the art. There's some great, like that bit I mentioned with Cap freaking out after he comes out of the ice. There's just so much emotion and cartooniness about that panel where he's being wrangled by Thor. I thought that's great. I think the designs on the costumes are really modern, but not overly designed. You know, I think of modern costumes, I think of MCU, and I think of like Hickman's Avengers, and some of the redesigns there, they're too much. There's lines everywhere. These are much more sleek, and I actually really like them.
I agree. I'm really digging the costume designs that we've gotten so far. I really wanted to highlight the colors, because I think the colors were fantastic in this issue. Federico Blee did such a great job. There are some scenes that are like for example, when Hank and Janet they go to that restaurant to deal with the bug issue. The colors there are just so nice. The oranges there, they're not too bright. They're kind of muted. They're in a dirty environment, and I think it gets that across. Just great colors all throughout this book.
This book has a weird color palette. It's like a little bit extra blue. And I can't like put my finger on it, but it definitely separates itself from everything else.
Yeah. Which I dug.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree. I'm excited for more for Gary artwork.
Yeah.
He's
gonna come up fast.
I do have a question, actually. I think the art's great, but so the premise is that Tony Stark sends all these powers essentially to people who you think can become heroes, and the Shocker got one in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Well, he stole it, didn't he?
He stole it from the guy who died when he opened it, but they're still the Shocker gauntlets.
They're desperate for people. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't understand that, and maybe we're not meant to.
Yeah, I wonder if they were someone else's gauntlets, you know, that the Shocker picks up.
By the way, hello to all of you that are watching us live right now. A whole rip of you guys joined us tonight. Love that. Make sure you Hulk smash that like button if you're enjoying it. We've got a lot of books on tap today. The biggest controversy coming out of this issue, and I really want to dig into it if we can, is what happens at the very end, which is when Hank decides to use his powers. He becomes Giant Man, and he actually steps on all of the baddies that the Ultimates were fighting. He killed those people.
Yeah.
So did Wasp.
Yeah, they were catching bodies. And that's probably the only thing from this that reminds me of the original Ultimates, which is that they were more cavalier about that type of thing. And so my question is, you know, does that bother you guys? How do you feel about seeing these heroes just kind of willing and having no issue with taking lives?
I mean, I wasn't as bugged by it if they didn't spend the beginning of the issue with those two characters complaining like they don't want to kill things with culture. It seemed like almost counterintuitive to then state that, and that's their MO. Like, I understand, all right, they want to be helpful, they want to save people, but then to then kill things who presumably have a culture because they're human, in the same issue. That was like, oh, okay. I understand they're a product of the environment, and this world seemed a little rough and tumble the way it's run. But when Wasp like shoots herself through that guy's head and then throws up afterwards, I was like, whoa. It would take a lot for a person just to get their first body without like hesitation like that. Maybe you can argue she didn't really understand her powers at that point, but it was like, whoa, kind of took me back.
Do we know that these things are human?
I mean,
From
there's
the
an
Frost
eyeball
fans,
that pops
I
out of
remember.
the dude, so I would assume
Which dude?
the one that Wasp flies through. You see, like the screen, she pops out through his eye.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't have an issue with it. I mean, I feel like there's a level of reality to, casualties, and it being associated to this kind of superheroics. So it makes sense, but I don't have issue with it narratively.
Where I come down on it is this is a world that, like, the regular 616 has the Avengers because there are just some threats that are too big for them separately. They need to be together to avenge and right wrongs. But they are celebrities. They are untouchables. In this world, they're perceived as terrorists. In the Ultimates. And these people, Captain Britain, these organizations, they exist to snuff out what it is that the Ultimates stand for. So, frankly, to me, I don't look at it as dissimilar to in Star Wars, Luke and Leia and everybody else having no problem blasting stormtroopers to death and blowing up Death Stars. I mean, certainly they killed hundreds of thousands of people. I think that
Yeah.
that's just what it is. They're rebels.
I guess I saw them more as stormtroopers because we see that eyeball, but we never see a face.
Well, the stormtroopers are people.
No, certainly. I just mean like I don't have a connection to them, so I didn't even consider it.
I see.
Yeah, it felt regular, normal.
This is, to me, a phenomenal comic book. My pick of the week on a stacked week. Really, maybe the best week of the year for comics, at least on this podcast. But this is the one that stood out among the pack for me. Very difficult to say. Almost everything here is a banger, but this was the one for me.
It,
Go.
this discussion really brought this up in my ranking. It's not pick of the week, but it's a definite pull.
Yeah, I think
I'm
the
excited
discussion.
to keep going. Yeah, sorry.
No, the discussion added, but for whatever reason, nothing about this like lit me up. I might be out at the door with this one. Like, I think everything you guys made sense. It's a purely functional comic. Like it just didn't jive with me.
I think any other week this would have been a pick of the week for me. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited for the next issue. I know one of the comments we saw, I don't remember who said it. Oh, okay, AC Joe. The biggest thing I've heard from people is that this team is way too white. I'm pretty sure that's changing down the line from based on solicits, so that would be a big gripe for me, but I think that is changing. But I am excited for what else is happening in this. So yeah, this is an easy pull for me.
For sure. Let's see what the listeners are thinking. All near 50 of you that joined us on a Thursday. That's a beautiful thing. Sanji, wow, did not see that as older people taking their youth back. Interesting though. Atomic Count, Ultimates felt new and fresh, not a knockoff in any sense. Completely agree with that.
We started talking about the killing issue, and Columbo said 616 Hank, not looking so bad now, am I?
AC Joe says, as a man that made it through his 20s without a criminal record with my last name was very rewarding. Low bar, but I know I can connect with this Hank. Right? Right? Like, who among us is where we want to be or where we thought we would be 20 years ago? You know what I'm saying? And what if you were told that some fucking, higher power, some governing body made the decision to steal your destiny? Now all of a sudden you're a janitor.
My man, that's just church.
Damn.
I was just raised that way. I don't.
Oh, man. What else do we got? Wow, so many comments. Love to see it. You guys are gonna have to start it's too bad there's no way to super chats highlight the comments, but like I remember on Twitch, you could do bits to highlight or whatever it was.
Steve says, "Great chat, thanks, but it's time for bed here in Europe." You're telling me, buddy.
Night, Steve. Thanks for
go to
hanging.
bed. Villains die every day. B style so serious. Yeah, I guess so.
I love
Comes
that
with the
line.
territory.
I love that line. If you got that from where I think you got that from, then we are on the same wavelength, my friend. What's up, Capsule? Atomic Hound says, for those who don't like current day comics, this week sucked. You got that right. If you think comics are bad right now, then this must be the worst week ever. But around here, we know different. Comic books are amazing. If you agree with that, make sure you Hulk smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel because we love to talk comics around these parts. We're going to be talking X-Men comics here in just a little bit and on Saturday, because this Saturday we are presenting the Krakoan Age Postmortem. We're going to be talking about and breaking down 5 years worth of X-Men comics from House and Powers all the way to the Fall of X. We're going to be breaking everything down. I am actually in the middle of my House and Powers reread, and I am having an absolute blast with this book. With everything all said and done in retrospect, wow. Love it.
I wasn't on the book club when you guys did it last. I haven't read it since we read it.
Oh,
If I had time, I wish I could. Yeah,
you're due.
We're doing a Cracobituary.
Ah, okay.
Rolls right off the tongue.
I really had to think because I had it in my head and I was practicing it, and then Sean pulled out House of Powers, and I went, "Oh no, I've lost it."
And I'm going to be presenting the Stakoa on Saturday. For those of you Pals Pulls loyalists who are here every week, you know that we have been teasing for like months now that I will present every single issue that I have from the 5 years of Krakoa in one shot. I'm somehow going to be able to present all of that. And what I want to add is that we're going to play the stat game with that. Whoever can get the closest to the final number without going over is going to win a copy.
Whole collection. Oh,
yeah, right. It's going to win a copy of Inferno. I have an additional copy, so I will ship that off to the winner.
Nice.
That'll be a part of our giveaway.
Have you worked out how you're going to show it?
Nope.
Still no, huh?
We'll do it live.
That'll be figured out at 4 a.m. Saturday.
Somehow I'm going to know. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Speaking of the X-Men, let's talk about X-Men number 700. Well, 35. Legacy 700. This is by a lot of people.
Take a breath, Sean.
Pretty much everybody who's been working in the X region for the last couple of years had a hand in this. So I'm going to read off the whole creative team just for shits and giggles.
Oh, well, yeah, as fast as possible.
I got you, man. Here we go. Kieran Gillen, Al Ewing, Jerry Duggan, Sarah Pacelli, Stefano Caselli, Jerome Pena, Lineal Francis Yu, Mark Brooks, Walt Simonson, Luciano Vecchio, Lucas Wernick, Joshua Casara, Phil Noto, John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, Laura Martin, Matt Wilson, Sonny Go, Sonia Oback, Matt Hollingsworth, David Curio, Romulo Fajardo Jr., Marcio Menace, Clayton Cowles, and that's it.
Now, can you do it again in the tune of "We Didn't Start the Fire"?
No, that I cannot do. And so this issue is the big goodbye. It's the big finale. There's some unfinished business, not much, but there is some major outliers and things we need to figure out. Of course, there's still one last confrontation between Magneto and Professor X. Um, there is a decent bit where Wolverine is hunting Professor Xavier, and Magneto shows up, and he stops Wolverine from doing what Wolverine does best.
Yo,
Go ahead.
that panel where Wolverine pops into the canister, that was phenomenal.
The Hello Chuck. That was Cassara on
That
it,
was-
right? Yeah.
Was it? Oh,
So
that's
good.
So look at that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I feel like we've never seen anything like that with Wolverine.
Yeah, right? Now that I think about
That's
it.
wild.
That perspective on the claws, you're looking right
Yeah.
down.
We get the answer as to why the mutants cannot just return to Krakoa. I think that's the biggest question I had coming into this issue is how are they going to justify mutants just not going back since Orcus is fully defeated and, essentially everything is solved. And so the way they do that is basically, there were all these mutants that stayed on Krakoa and they were trapped in the white hot room or whatever. And for them, they've now reemerged. And for them, however long, 15 years have
15,
passed or
yeah.
whatever it was.
15, yeah.
Yeah. And so they have moved far beyond all of this. And they have now built a society that is more akin to what I think the original dream of Krakoa was. And unfortunately, it's a dream that never could have been. It never could have been realized because of the fact that, unfortunately, the Earth must be shared amongst humans and mutants. And there was always going to be this conflict that would result in, destruction and chaos. And as it turns out, Krakoa itself was being burned out by so many mutants occupying the space. And so had this big battle not happened and everything else, Krakoa would have burned out anyways, within a few years' time. And so that's the explanation that they give us for that. And so the new mutants are sort of saying, hey, you can come with us if you want to, but we're not staying here. Krakoa won't, this version of Krakoa will not be here anymore. And do what you will with that. We have our piece. And all the mutants we know, of course, decide to stay. They decide to stay on Earth and be the X-Men and everything else. And that doesn't sit right with Apocalypse. Well, the decision for Krakoa doesn't sit right with Apocalypse, who starts a big battle. It's mutants versus Apocalypse yet again, and all those shenanigans. And that's the basics of the main story. There's other stuff, but we'll get into all that. What do you guys think of this?
I was worried about this issue. I think it is of no surprise to anyone who listens to the show or even the main show that we have not been the hottest on the Krakoan age within the past, I would say 2024, within this year, maybe a little before as well. So I felt like this had a lot on its plate to handle. But honestly, I thought it did the best job it possibly could have with that. I thought like that explanation for Krakoa, I think, is convoluted, but it works in the nature of the story, and the fact that it's not them getting rid of Krakoa, it's not them retconning anything. This all still happened, and the memory of it still exists. But it just had to evolve, and I like that. I like how
it makes sense.
It does, and I think a lot of even like the Apocalypse thing. At first, I was like startled by it. I'm like, oh, is this a de-evolution of what he's been doing? But it also kind of tracked.
We don't have to do it now, but I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, I just thought it did a really decent job at it, and I thought a lot of the bits that in this main story were great. Like the fact that the White Hot Room Krakoa was able to do the thing that mutants couldn't do on Krakoa, and that's bring back all the dead Genoshan people. And then seeing Emma's dream being realized for her, and also like a statue for Emma on that Krakoa, and her realizing like her dream is true, I thought was a great bit, because I think Emma is one of those characters that really deserves a lot of that. So I think there are some really, really good bits here. Like even the Apocalypse thing and throwing Richter in is like, all right, there's a loose thread that they need to sew up as well. Yeah, I thought oh, this is really well done, honestly. And I don't want to say it got me excited for the next X-Men, but it at least set the stage that at least makes me understand where we're going. And I'm not as trepidatious about it.
I'll go that step further and say it got me excited. Like I've been worried about what they're gonna do post this, and I think this wraps things up. I like that you said it feels like an evolution, because I think it continues that sort of idea and narrative that is, um, that has been at the core of what Hoxbox started. We're moving the X-Men up. We're transitioning them, and this doesn't, because it doesn't do away with that. I'm able to have my cake and eat it too. I know that all of those mutants who wanted the radical idea and have that possibility and have that future of Krakoa still are there. So my dream of that exists. The dream of the people who would want a more normal or meat and potatoes X-Men, that still exists. And if anything is happening, and we're going into that in a very clean way, because the way that the book ends, our key players, or some of them, are kind of just around the world. And I like that there are repercussions coming out of Krakoa too, because you feel like, oh good, this didn't never happen. It did. I like that. Thank you so much. Because if my worry was they're gonna do it all the way, I'm not the only one that's gonna have a memory of it is me, and that would make me feel sad for what that initially was. And I thought that Apocalypse piece was awesome, because I think it makes a distinction of this is where the X-Men were, this is what they needed to get to get into that next level, and that was the majority of what again Hoxbox was, right? It was ultimately becoming suitable for Dominion. This is their own Dominion. They have their own Dominion now, and Krakoa is floating away.
Man, this this really made me emotional. I mean, I remember very, very vividly and clearly when House number 1 came out in 2019, and what that was like for us here on the show, what that was like for me personally. My life has changed a lot in these 5 years. It's been a long road, and I can't think of another era of any kind of comic other than Bendis's Avengers, I guess, that, you know, I feel like I really have been a part of the entire journey and felt so connected to from the literal first issue. So, hats off to everybody involved, especially in the second half. I know how hard it's been for everybody to pull this off. And, it made this issue feel special. I think they did the absolute best that they could to resolve as much as they could, and, you know, make it feel how it needed to, like a proper end. There are some warts. I don't think it's perfect. I wasn't particularly happy with the Apocalypse stuff. I think ultimately him not staying good makes all the sense in the world, but it felt so fast that he would start trying to kill people that he was just fighting to save and protect. Literally the last time we saw him, which was 1 issue ago. It was just a very quick turn. I wish they would have. I understand they wanted to have a battle in this issue, and it kind of mirrors the it's like the anti-Crucible. But I almost wish he would have said, you know what? This breaks my heart that you have made this decision. The next time we cross paths, it will be as enemies again, and left. I really wish that's what would have happened. I didn't need this fight.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is it that especially felt? I didn't quite understand his emotion there, because he's lived for a millennia, and like the fact that he wouldn't be willing to accept that Krakoa has moved on from where it was, and like his ideas, to something new and something peaceful, which is what I feel like he wanted, a world where mutants are, you know, safe. They're, they're warriors and they've defended their stuff and they're safe. And Apocalypse built that. He was a massive part of it. I didn't understand why he wouldn't be willing to accept the fact that, he was a cornerstone in that.
See, I viewed it as not necessarily a villainous moment. I viewed it as Apocalypse just really having an emotional response to it, to the point where this is all he knows is violence, really, at the end of things. And it was almost like when a child has to leave, he grows up and leaves the parents, and the parents are still grasping for that control. And then, but also at the same time realizing that now the thing that they raised can live on its own. And there's a question on, where do I go from here? Like when you leave your parents' house, sometimes they don't know what the hell they're doing anymore. And they're not there to raise you anymore. There is a conflict of like a crisis of consciousness within themselves. And I think the other story with Apocalypse, when he goes back to Araco and he kind of questions his even necessity to exist anymore, I think kind of hammered that home. And I actually really enjoyed that, because this is probably the oldest mutant, and his dream is finally realized, but he has no place in it anymore. And that's his response to it. And I thought that was really good. And yes, it led to some really cool splash pages. Jerome Opeña coming back, right? Was that Opeña on the Nightcrawler Wolverine bits?
Is it the watercolor stuff?
Yeah, that felt like Jerome. Was he on the list of people you named?
Opeña's on the list, yeah.
Yeah. I think that was the Opeña
Real
stuff.
good.
And I was like, whoa, okay, it's cool to see him back. The JRGR doing, I think it was like Colossus and
Colossus, yeah.
Apocalypse is that one page. Like, it needed it for the structure of the book to be able to do those bombastic moments, but I think it really worked for the character of Apocalypse and how he's grown as well.
I agree.
I don't know about that.
I took it. Go.
Well, I just feel like the violence angle would have shown more growth had they not gone that route. Like, I agree that his reaction internally probably makes sense, but if he were to show actual growth, I think, I don't think the violence would have been the thing.
I mean, I took it as his. I think that anger, that violence came from him feeling like his place in history, like he was slighted in his place in history. Like, this is all that it's amounted to, for being the first mutant, for helping to get up until this point. This is sort of how you honor me. It felt like it was coming from a place of anger, not necessarily from him not processing or not being able to process that the future has moved past him. Because he's always been the first mutant. The future has always been different and new. And he's stuck to his roots and he's stuck to his ways up until he became, the unspeakable letter. But now he's regressed in that anger. And like Tyler mentioned, when he ends up going back to Araco, he's just like, yeah, you know what? That felt like a moment where just like, yeah, maybe I went a little overboard on that. My bad. I really shouldn't have.
C.W. Gordon, he hit the nail on the head. He's completely right. But I thought that's what the falling out between him and his wife was. She wanted to fight forever, but he wanted peace. That is exactly right. And this is, in my opinion, this happens in order to set Apocalypse up as a villain for the future. Not anything to do with representing his growth, because if you go back to his first appearance in House and Powers, he says, I will join you because you finally understand what is required, which is for mutants to be supreme. We need to all be aligned in order to take over. And as long as you are doing this, I am with you.
And I think that's true. But the fact that they are not on Earth, I think, is also what irked him. Because it's supremacy, but they're leaving now.
It's not supremacy, though. It's just them fucking off. And he clearly doesn't like that. He doesn't think that that's the right way to go. Survival of the fittest is the original Apocalypse philosophy, which I think is often misapplied. But what he is saying is, you can't be fit if you're not tested. there's no test outside of this place. You have to be here to be tested.
That's what I'm saying. Like his dream is so close, but now they're making it like his child, the dream itself, is making a choice that he doesn't agree with.
But that's not growth, is what I'm saying. That's a regression. That's him going back to what he used to be like, not what he has become. I don't think that this does anything to service the apocalypse that we've had for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I can't see that at all.
Yeah, and I think that's been my problem. Like the even it even feels like Apocalypse's actions here go against his the thing where he kills the mutants to bring him back.
The Crucible.
The Crucible, thank you. Because he's just wantonly killing. Or, being violent. Like, the Crucible has a very specific point, and it's to bring out the strong mutants.
Yeah. I get why they did it. I just didn't love it. And I mean, the last bit we get with Apocalypse is it's setting up the Heir of Apocalypse story that we have coming by Steve Fox, and whenever that's coming out, I think it's next week. But he says, I look beaten. I saw the future, and I saw that I was not required by it. Krakoa now belongs to the new, and our days are old. I hoped that they would need me for the next stage of their enlightenment, so I made the offer. It was rejected. What to do when the future slips from your fingers? What is left to be done here in the now? Perhaps it's time to pass such questions to another. Perhaps I should choose an heir. So that sets up the future book that we're going to be getting, where we're going to get a new Apocalypse while this one chills out, I guess, in Araco or whatever. Not a proper send-off for me for Big A, but all right. Hats off, buddy.
Yeah.
Cool fight, though, for what it's worth. Awesome
Oh,
actual fight scene.
Yeah. The jumping of art here felt pretty rough from time to time. I get that they're trying to squeeze everybody in, but I think I don't know if maybe there's like better progression with styles.
There was the constant jump back to Phil Noto and something you didn't care much for, Marco.
Dude, the Phil Noto style, I was like, oh, okay, all right. You got a lot of pages, huh?
I mean, compared to the some of the artists on here, like, yeah, I have to agree with Marco on that one. Like, and I like Noto, but
I do too. I just wish they would have given them all segments to do unto themselves.
Exactly.
yeah,
Like full sequences, 3 pages. Like give me like a little. Oh, cool! Like I like that. Pena got Nightcrawler and Wolverine. That was the thing he owned. Cool. Next set, or the previous set, whatever.
yeah.
It
Like
was
this
cool to
Noto.
see Lanil Yu back though, doing more Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that feels right. Like once it shifted, like you just know it's Lanil Yu as soon as you see the art.
Yes, dude. Yes, absolutely.
I'm a big Yu head, so anytime I see Lanil Yu, I'm into it.
This Noto storm moment. I went, oh, could have done that a lot better.
I was also a little annoyed by the conversation between Magneto and Xavier, just because, like Magneto seems to believe that Krakoa was a mistake and that it was a failure and didn't work because of their own decision making. He talks about how, they couldn't imagine a world or a place that didn't have essentially a prison. And that playing that game of nations and everything else, he says, I played this brutal game, the game of laws of nations, of hard and soft power to ensure mutant safety. It didn't work. In embracing the world's power, I turned my back on the world. I won't again. I will not appease Charles, nor will I assimilate. I am not ashamed, not of what I am. But when people are oppressed by power simply because of who they are, be they human or mutant, we face the same enemy, and we must destroy that enemy together. All of the hated, all of the feared, all of us. The next Krakoan age will not be built by my hand, but it will be built and it will be everywhere. Nah, sorry.
See, I understood Magneto's perspective, because he's Max again, and the idea that he is every part of him after resurrection, and that character maybe not wanting a prison makes sense for his history, but
And he
Go ahead, Cal.
he's made peace with that
Yeah.
time and his
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, but then Xavier just felt a little too far, and it's always felt too far for Xavier. I think in this, ever since he pulled out a
Well,
gun on a child.
I want to stick on the Magneto piece because there's no version of Magneto that I've ever read that thinks that human and mutants belong together. Every version of Magneto that I've ever read believes in mutant supremacy. And so to me, I don't feel like Krakoa didn't work. And I'm surprised that he thinks that it didn't work. I mean, Homeboy was dead and he left and Apocalypse left. So, I mean, did it work? Did it not work or did you abandon it? And I feel like there's never that counterpoint.
Xavier calls him out on that.
That's true. Yeah.
And Magneto does admit that.
He pretty much says, like, you left when things got rough.
Yeah. You left, then died, and then came back. Like,
yeah, now we got to call you Max again? Like, yeah.
Yeah, Xavier was like, listen, I did what I had to do. You left, you died. What was I supposed to do?
And the idea that, Sean, that you've never seen a Magneto like this, I think it's justified in a way after Resurrection of Magneto, because this is essentially a new Magneto. So I'm okay with that drastic of a perspective change.
I think I agree. And I sort of said this on our ranking. I think Magneto, as he's portrayed now, post Resurrection, is the other end of the spectrum that Xavier fights. You know, he's come back. Magneto has come back to, okay, we can make this work, but you know, if you're gonna hit me, I'm gonna hit back.
But what about the Krakoan experience? And what about the way that things ended would bring Magneto to a place where he would believe that humans and mutants need to align? Because it's the reason that Krakoa didn't work has nothing to do with the pit. It has to do with Orcus. So why does Magneto believe this now? There's nothing in story that I've read that would lead to this, because the reason it didn't work is because of humans, not because of mutants. Mr. Sinister is not a mutant. Nimrod isn't. Moira was, but she flipped. So
Sinister not a mutant?
no, he stole Thunderbird's DNA.
He's a self-made mutant.
Yeah, fuck that dude.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. Other than, you know, maybe if the humans like us, they won't make more machines to kill us. You know,
which sounds very Magneto.
Well, I mean, it sounds very Xavier too. You know?
Well, and I think Xavier calls him out on that too. He just like he pretty much says like, "I'm trying not to say I told you so," because Magneto's made this whole evolution and change to essentially end up where Xavier started, and Xavier is on the other end of the spectrum because he realized that didn't work. So there's that weird flip flop of the dynamic.
Well, and it was the same, a similar journey we saw with Cyclops in the Bendis era.
Cyclops and Wolverine and Schism. Yep.
Yeah.
There are lots of sort of teases and lead-ins to the next era, the From the Ashes era that we get here as well. We learn, I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, that Professor Xavier is Prisoner X. I don't think they've explicitly said it, but seems to be about right. And he's in this jail that was made by Reed and Tony, I think, and he put some kind of a failsafe, or not a failsafe, but a splinter in their mind that says if you build a prison for Professor Xavier, leave a loophole. So he's still able to do his thing from inside of this place. Yeah.
Felt a bit contrived.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, then we don't get astral Xavier. That's actually how we get an Onslaught, just so you guys know.
Look at the big brain on Marco.
Wow. I thought that when I first saw that, I thought it was Iceman.
I liked seeing Mother Right just get got by Mystique.
Yeah,
That was
just
cool.
just close all those holes, like just
Yeah,
end
that's
it.
good.
Yeah.
She had to go. I'm about done with her. She was popular though, but I'm done
Good
with her.
design.
Yeah,
Was
cool
she?
dude.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
like her.
Did you guys read the Claremont LaRocca story?
Oh, yeah.
I
Sure
liked
did.
I liked the content of it. I liked the story. I thought Claremont did some classic Claremont stuff. But has LaRocca ever seen how hair looks? Rogue looked like Knuckles the Echidna.
Yo, we're shaggy as fuck.
It was spiky. It looked like Sora. She had Sora hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was frustrated by this story. I need Mystique and Destiny to be on ice. Like this whole family thing that they have going on to
Pride
me
Month?
is I don't give a damn what month it is. The reason I feel that way is because these two characters, I found them to be unbelievably compelling. From the word go through Inferno, through Immortal X-Men and everything like that. And I thought their love story was actually really interesting. It just got so convoluted when it's like Mystique is actually Nightcrawler's father, and Destiny's like his mother, and Rogue is one of their children, but Destiny and Mystique's minds were wiped, so they don't remember that they're Nightcrawler's mom and dad, and Charles doesn't remember it either, and he wiped everybody's brain. It's just like too much BS, and like I just don't even give a fuck. I don't.
And so much of this story to me felt like just Nightcrawler whining. Like
Especially,
I understand the massive trauma he's gone through, but I just, man, nobody reacts like this.
but after they get explained, well, yeah, then then we forgot, then Xavier forgot, and then somebody did this to us, and then to you, and and it's like, and you're still mad. I'm like, yeah, why are you mad? It's not their fault. Like, get over it.
But and even still, I felt like his attitude about it didn't feel in character to me.
Yeah. He's reflective. He'll be able. I feel like he'd be able to take that in and be like, oh, okay, I can come to an understanding. He's kinder than that.
Or even just like, oh yeah, this is X-Men bullshit. I don't know.
So it ends with the book ends with these teases for the future teams and the future books and stuff like that. These didn't really do a whole lot for me. They're really short. And they're just meant to give you a little bit of a flavor of what's to come. Sure. Fine. I don't know what to make of any of
Did
it.
any of you groan at the kitty bit? Where her
With,
friend's doing
Man of Steel.
I like
her friend's
that.
doing the crosswords.
I
And
was
she says
cool.
to
Yeah, I
me,
like that.
my ex.
I like that one.
That was the one I liked, actually.
Yeah.
It was a good groan for me. It was a good groan, but
Ew.
I mean, we still never understood why she can't go through those portals, but whatever.
The reason was because her powers it worked the opposite. You're muted.
Oh, I understand the stated reason, but it doesn't make sense.
I did like the Phoenix bit. She's saving
good.
millions. That was cool. I like that one.
Yeah, I did like that. What do we say? What are our last words about the very final story in the Krakoan age? As the first age of Krakoa ends.
This was my pick of the week. I actually really enjoyed this. I had an emotional response to this, which I rarely do for anything. This, like, I wasn't on the show with you guys, but I also started podcasting when this first started too. So this kind of has a special place for me as well. And yeah, I mean, I thought they did a real decent job for what they had. I liked it a lot.
It was close to being pick of the week. I have so much fun with this. I'm I still and I will come out of the Krakoan era feeling good about what it was, its mission statement, uh, even amidst the end bits and the things that I didn't like about it. I think there's much more good than there is bad, or positive to come out of it than there is bad. And I think the way that this wrapped up kind of solidifies that in my mind.
I'm glad it ended this way. I feel good about it. Um, yeah, the ending. I like that Krakoa still exists, and I even like the fact that the people who founded Krakoa have had to step away so that they can sort of continue their mission of human and mutant peace. Like they can't go to Krakoa because their fight's not finished. I think that's good. I think it's interesting.
And not only that, there will be new mutants to be made too. So
Yeah,
like their mission
yeah.
will never really finish.
So like as far as it goes, this is solid pull.
Yeah, it's a pull. I mean, I'm not sure why the mutants are scattered again. They're
Yeah.
gonna have to do some legwork to explain that, because at the very end of this, they're all together. And they don't really have beef with each other. So I feel like they could just reestablish a base elsewhere, which would make all the sense in the world collectively. But, you know, um, I think they
They
did
just need space.
yeah, they did the best they could. The
Mm.
creatives involved. I don't think that we've heard the last of Krakoa as a place. I'm sure someone will revisit it in the future.
Yeah.
Never again in the way that they did. And, I'm just glad that the dream was real for a while, because I really, truly at the end did have a blast with Krakoa. I really did.
Man, nothing lit my fire for the X-Men like Krakoa did.
I don't, yeah.
Though that up to Inferno, uh I felt like an X-Men loving teenager again. Like I was in my chat rooms, like trying to, work out how to be an X-Man again. Like I was all over the place. I loved Krakoa.
I don't know if I'll ever love the X-Men the same way again in
Yep.
comics.
Yep.
It's going to be very hard to achieve something like this again.
I mean, X-Men 97 season 2 will come down still, so
Oh,
wait for them to tackle
you're
this
right.
storyline.
We'll see you next year.
All right. That's it for the Marvel books, but we've got DC books to talk about. We've got a couple of DC books. Let's get with the first one. Batman number 148. This is, of course, Chip Zdarsky on the words, George Jimenez on the art, colors by Tumu Moret, and letters by Clayton Cowles. This is it. The big battle between Batman and family versus Failsafe and Zur-En-Arrh and the new Robin, who was actually Bruce, and who's the mentor? What's his name? David. Um, this is the big battle. And I actually thought this was pretty awesome.
Was it a lack of a backup that made you think it was awesome?
I was so worried that it was going to end and then there was going to be some random backup. But I was so happy that we got some extra story pages instead, some main story pages. I think there was a lot of work that Chip had to do from a story standpoint to wrap this piece up, and I think that was done pretty effectively, bringing the family back together. That was great. I enjoyed those scenes. I think we could have gotten a little bit more of that. Some of the family dynamics we didn't really get to address, like Dick and Bruce didn't really have too much with each other. Daniel Capito, Daniel, not David. And that this is the only thing that Bruce really has over failsafe is the family. And that he uses that to his advantage.
Failsafe just has
So-
more of himself.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't it always the lesson? Family.
Okay, Vin Diesel. It was nice to see a full Jimenez issue. You know, like when I flipped that page, Sean, and I expected to back up and there was nothing. It was like flip the page I read digitally, and it just ended. I'm like, oh, good. That feels good in terms of a pacing thing, because like I've cooled down already. I don't need to read anymore, and then like just the roller coaster of reading the book. I thought it was good. You know, I really like that new costume, that new Jimenez design costume. It's weird, but I enjoy it.
That Home Depot looking thing, dude.
The,
The fucking
kinda
all the
does.
screws.
the homage to Batman and Robin,
Maybe that's why I liked it.
the George Clooney ass.
Was there nipples? Did I miss the
not
nipples?
like this costume.
But I'm with you again, Sean, because I do think like even though Jason of it all, he's kind of a major player in this issue, he kind of just forgives Bruce pretty quickly. Like everyone after all that happened in Gotham War, and subsequently with Bruce kind of going a little off the deep end, they all just be like, "Oh, is it actually you now? Okay, cool, we're good." Where I would even feel like even if it is him, he still made the decisions that led to this, and I would still feel a little upset about it. Like Jason's whole mind was changed. Yes, Bruce wasn't fully in control, but he still created failsafe, so I would still be a little upset. I think people forgave him a little too quickly.
Can see that.
I'm with you. I said this. I've said this a few times. To me, this felt I don't know, like the end to every other Batman arc where he turns away from his family. Well, they come back. Okay. So I don't know. To me, this didn't really do anything for me.
It felt like a clean exit from where we were getting, and I appreciated it for that. And the way to beat failsafe, I also liked wasn't physical. Like yeah, you had your you had the family come in, but I liked that there was another way type situation, and it was you just you activate the failsafe on failsafe, just he blows himself up.
I thought that was clever. I really was like, how okay, cool, the family, whatever, but how do you stop this dude? The Justice League got chumped out. How do you deal with failsafe? And I think, the idea that he accidentally kills Jason, and that's the one thing Batman doesn't do. And that's the exact reason why failsafe was activated in the first place. That was clever. I think Marco hit on something that kept this was a really cool issue, and I enjoyed it, but something that kept it from being like great is it is very clean. Failsafe had established a vast network of power. He took over Arkham. He did everything. It was all powerful, and it took about one issue for all of that to be undone. Now, of course, we know absolute power is coming, and he is in that. So clearly, it's not all over. I'm assuming Amanda Waller's going to get her hands on the body, etc. But still, it was pretty easy to do this, all said and done.
And actually, now
Yeah.
that you say that, I feel like, does that mean that the failsafe in that arc is going to be like a downgrade? Like, we know he can be beaten, and does that mean now he becomes just another thing to throw a punch at and he gets knocked out? Like, does his power level come down?
We'll have to see. Yeah, I mean, this issue. Go ahead, Cale.
I was just gonna say, well, if the failsafe has already been beaten, presumably he's Zurinar.
Just Zurinar?
So
What do you mean?
Well, so I guess what I mean is he can't be tricked again.
Like that George Bush quote.
Yeah. Fool me once.
I don't know. I assume he'll upgrade his body or something or other,
Waller will, Brainiac
Yeah.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, Jason Todd really said, "I'm gonna die for you again."
I'm a fucking meme. Don't worry about it.
I thought that was a little, it
Too easy. Like
a little.
like has already been said. Like all of this family relationship stuff is way too easy.
He was very willing to just be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, okay. Oh, you take a little bit of Lazarus? No worries. Straight into the vein, right here, dude.
Oh, you need somebody to die? That's
Yeah.
me, bro. I'm your
Hey.
man.
Hey, why is no one else raising their hand? That's weird.
And he's the one who has the most to be pissed about too, and that's what
Yeah.
kind of threw me off. Like maybe Dick doing that, maybe Tim, the one who's been with Batman this entire time, making that call for himself. But Jason, I'm surprised he even showed up. Honestly,
Yeah. Yep. Because where does that leave Jason later?
Zombie.
Like again, like Jason has a massive narrative grudge against Bruce now. Well, not anymore. I guess.
Also, doesn't Lazarus have an after effect?
Yes.
I think the point of using just a little bit was that it would be negated.
it's microdosing.
Microdosing of resurrection. All right.
He's got some practice dying.
Resurrecting.
I truly hope I never see this Capito guy again.
Yo, yeah, dude. Fuck
When-
this guy.
When he popped in, and he goes, dude, I was dying laughing in real life. He goes, the Bruce I knew would never sacrifice one of his own for his mission. And yet here you are finally making the tough decisions. All I have to say about that is Vespertilio ex proximity. I was
Yo,
like,
he
what
went Harry
the
Potter.
fuck did you just say? Like, what happened? What?
Where's his Patronus? I didn't even see it.
Like, why did he just pull out some Wizarding World magic shit to shut Bruce down? Like, Zur-En-Arr as a statement, like it has a point that kind of makes sense. My man just said some fucking random shit.
There's one thing I'll give Capito or Capicio or whatever. The way he dressed, he had that thing on constantly.
Oh my god.
He was like dressed with the cape and the shawl and the full suit. Give him that. But like, what happened to Riddler? Like, do we know? I guess we'll find out. Hopefully.
Dude, he's a veggie. Everybody there was a vegetable. After getting just electroshocked, I guess they just kind of walk by that.
Oh my god, man.
Well, it's the same. Bruce gets through it the same way fucking Xavier does. Oh yeah, you didn't think I'd find a loophole for your loophole?
Yeah.
Come on, like, or fucking Kieran Gillen and Chip Zdarsky talking like.
Oh my god, they probably are, dude. Like the Zur-En-Arr thing was such a simple, like it's wacky, but in the specific context that Grant uses it works.
Yeah.
But then when you extend it out and there's Cirque-En-Arr with Nightwing and you got Capito saying gibberish, like it's just too much.
Every time you bring up Cirque-En-Arr, I feel like that's fake, even though I know it's not.
I wish it was fake.
Yeah.
There's like a failsafe in my own mind to forget that exists.
Daniel just said it.
Oh my god. But whatever clownery did exist in this issue, I think you can excuse a lot of things because of how damn good it looks.
Q Lumbo says, "Yeah, okay, Zatanna, settle down."
Yeah.
The Jimenez art is just phenomenal. From start to finish. I love his character, like his character work. The bodies, they're just so proportional. His attention to anatomy is there. I love when artists can really stick to what feels like human proportion and stuff like that. I'm one of those kind of fans, and man, he's good at it.
And you're right, and he knows proportion, and he does it correctly until he doesn't. But there's a reason for why he doesn't. It's very
Yeah.
manga or anime. It's like a freeze frame from that. Like there is
Sure.
full motion, and I think that helps because you're used to his anatomy working in the slower moments, and when it becomes dramatized and cartoony, it's because shit's going down. There's movement on the page, and I think that's really
Yep.
well done.
And even his visual language, like I'm looking at the two Robins or the young clone Bruce or whatever the fuck, and Tim in his new costume, which I hope isn't a new costume, but like the difference, between those two, even though they look virtually the same, like you can tell who's who, you know.
Yeah. Man, Jimenez is got to be in my top 5 at least right now. Working,
Yep.
dude is on another planet. Yeah, this is a pull. I mean, I've enjoyed Zdarsky and Jimenez's run to this point. Hiccups aside, Gotham War aside. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do now. I guess the Joker becomes the big threat. Not looking forward to
What?
that. But Zdarsky has proven that he deserves the space to work, and I'm gonna give him that.
I think
Haha,
he should.
NR.
I think he should do a Joker story. I didn't even hear what you said. I was busy trying to think, and now Sean's broken.
That was good.
All right,
Oh,
it'll
man.
activate you later when you listen back.
Yeah, when I do the editing for the podcast version, sure.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, pull.
Yeah, pull.
Same pull.
Pull for the conclusion, but it's fine.
Rami asks, will Zdarsky continue working on this title? Yes. Yes. His story is not quite done yet.
2 issues.
Um,
There's a legacy 150th issue, so Zdarsky will be writing that as well.
Styles asks, what happens to the other Batman personas? That is a great question. I assume that Zdarsky has a plan for all that, because it would be crazy to have introduced all of those personas and all those Amazobots and everything else and then just do nothing with it. So,
Not touch.
yeah, I assume we'll get something.
I also want to call out MJ Looney's comment. This has quickly become one of my favorite channels on YouTube. This show got me back into buying monthly comics. Me too. I just moved house and I keep buying comics instead of essentials for the new place.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. Back to the X book real fast. Uncanny Suit 97, who is a channel member. Thank you for being a channel member. Channel memberships are always open. If you guys want to join, you get exclusive access to videos, early access to videos. You get your emojis in the chat. You get your green name. Uncanny says, I think it was great, but I think many of us were expecting a Nimrod / Days of Future Past mixed with Hickman's Secret Wars to cap this run and reset the timeline, and we never got that, unfortunately. I think a timeline reset would have felt a lot more disappointing than you probably think, just because that often sort of negates what you just read, and it's rife for retcons, which is never the play. Secret Wars wasn't retconned or rebooted. There were things that carried forward from there, but that was also a universal cap. It would have been very difficult to make that work only in the X line without it being reflected in everything else. For there to be no event or anything like that, for the world of X, for the world of Marvel to just reboot, that would have been a little nuts, right?
I also wonder
Yeah.
what we would have, and obviously we'll talk about this, but what we would have gotten in the Hickman of it all. What was Hickman's end game? Because when we started this, it all felt weirdly out of time. Like the X-Men stuff felt like another universe, but we couldn't put our finger on why. So I think all the timeline shenanigans through Sins of Sinister and all that, and then coming back down through, the White Hot Room or the Dominion or whatever the fuck it ended up being. Like, I think it centered us back. So I think, having that a very, very loose time reset, was probably a good thing.
MP says, I think Capito and Zur were installing some of the other Zurs into Riddler and the villains. That's an interesting thought. Hadn't considered that. MP always with the good thoughts during the Bat reviews. I love that.
Yeah, wasn't that the premise? They were gonna, because they can make alternate versions, they're gonna make a version of them that isn't, insane or whatever.
I thought they were trying to cure them through shock therapy. I don't know what the hell was going
Oh,
on there.
Something about that. Yeah, weren't the Batman Zers going to the Amazobots?
That's what I thought. And Columbo says, I thought the multiverse Zers were going in the Task Force 7 Amazos in Absolute Power, or is that just a theory? I don't know. I read the Absolute Power Free Comic Book Day issue, and I don't recall there being anything about that. But that makes a lot of sense. It makes all the sense in the world, so that's probably the case. Let's get into Birds of Prey number 10. Yes. One of the best books on the stands right now. What a week, guys. Come on.
Stacked, dude.
What a
Yes.
cover, by the way. Like, I just flip sides. Man, that's a good ass cover.
We've got Kelly Thompson on the sticks, Robbie Rodriguez on the art with Gavin Guidry as well. Our boy, Gavin.
The guy.
Yeah. Colors by Jordi Belair, letters by Clayton Cowles. So this is a very fun arc so far. Just like before anything happens, you step through this portal, you get into a new world, and now it's a completely different visual environment. They reference like the world around them being reskinned, and that's pretty apropos. The last issue was like a sort of dark gothic kind of vibe because Batgirl stepped through first. Barbara had stepped through first. This time around it shifts because Big Barda stepped through first, and apparently the skin that she envisions for the world is a 50s sort of vibe.
I love Barda's call out of mid-century modern architecture. I was like, all right, yeah, I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And that is a thing that like Kelly doesn't waste. Kelly doesn't waste. Robbie, Gavin, they don't waste that idea. They utilize it very effectively. When you look at the costume designs for the birds, they have these costumes that feel apropos for the time. All of a sudden Barda has on these massive thigh highs that have heels on them. That's not very effective for fighting, but in the 50s, most women were wearing heels, right? That's just the way it was. So that makes a lot of sense. When we see Batgirl, and I don't know if this is this is just what came to my mind. I don't actually know if this is correct or appropriate, but I thought she was wearing like an older school Batgirl outfit. Did you guys feel that way at all?
Oh, I took that as it's a bob. It's a hair bob. You're wearing that and you style it with the ears.
It almost felt like those that series of variants they did, those bombshell variants years
Yeah.
back. That's
The
kind of what
world
I was getting
did,
from
yeah.
it. Yeah.
The this Batgirl outfit on both Cass and Barbara reminded me of Barbara's last costume reboot.
Burnside?
No, after Burnside.
Okay.
The one that sort of leaned more toward skin tight outfit and hair in along with the horns.
Sure.
Man, the first thing I noted about the art was the expressiveness of the face. That first page where she just like where the goop gets plucked out or she gets hit by the goop, her face turns and twists. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
And then the following panel, the ink looked like it was almost like smudged. It doesn't look like it's necessarily drawn on, but just like somebody with their thumbs kind of went like, squished it around a little bit. I off rip with that, and then going into just a fun sequence of panels. Sold. Easy.
I mean, it was just nice to see Robbie Rodriguez doing some art again. Like his Spider-Gwen stuff is iconic. I mean, that whole newest Spider-Verse movie, a third of that movie is based on his art style essentially. And him doing there's something he does with faces that I think is really well done. They're always at weird angles, they're always looking back, or rarely just face forward. There's always a choice he picks on the framing of a face that I really enjoy, and it was nice seeing him in this.
Man, Barda is just becoming one of the best DC characters. It's just crazy between what Tom King did and Mr. Miracle and what Kelly is doing here in Birds. Man, this character is just, I mean, she won me over when I saw her. She won me over the very first time I laid eyes on her. But just the work that's being done, she gets infected by this, this essence that is trying to use her to kill the birds, and she just fights it off.
Yes. No, thank you, please.
Yeah, like,
That's
I mean,
that was amazing.
That YA Barda book also came out this week. So like I agree, Barda's a freaking great character.
Cassandra, go ahead.
I think she's here way better than she is in Mr. Miracle.
I agree with that also.
We don't have to linger on it, but I needed to get it out there.
I disagree.
Well, okay, now we have to linger on it.
This one felt in terms of pacing much more of a, hey, this is the situation, here's what's going on. We had a couple pages of just like very talk at me, which isn't a bad thing. Obviously we need the context for what's going on, but it did hamper a bit of some of the action from last issue. I think it was a necessary issue, and so I'm pretty sure from here on we know what the stakes are, we know what's going on, so the next are going to be just back-to-back bangers. Just noting that this was and felt slower.
It definitely was a slowdown issue, and I felt like I'm kind of glad she just got it all out now, like, because it is a bit of a convoluted story or a complex backstory on these characters and all the sisters and their names of the constellations and this pocket universe. Like, just dump me with the exposition now and bookend it with Barda, and that's a way of like putting some a spoonful of sugar down with the exposition, because the rest of the stuff is probably going to be nuts going forward.
Dude, sorry, Cale, go ahead.
Just quickly, it was the names for me that really slowed me down.
I loved the backstory. I was enthralled by that. I was like, why are you wasting this here? You should do a whole other series at Image or Boom or whoever, Skybound, with this, because this is fascinating. This idea that the birds are going to ultimately kill Velvet Tiger, who is a Batgirl villain, a Barbara villain, and that drives one of her daughters crazy, basically, and leads to that daughter killing the other daughters to gain their powers. I was locked in on all of that. I thought that was, not only was it smart on Kelly's part, and not only was it compelling on an emotional level, but it also made me care about these characters immediately. Like, I just thought it was really, really cool and well done.
And it's also like, hey, that looks like a new Bird of Prey we could see down the line. Really cool power set there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is like the World of Warcraft in me. You show me a cool new race, I want it to be playable. So I was excited to see a new female character in this that could come into her own in the story.
This was great. I just love everything about this book. The art doesn't quit. The stories are just rocking. Any other week, this is my pick of the week. It's a brilliant book. I feel like every fucking time we review Birds of Prey, there's something for me that just slightly edges it out. The last few issues, I should say. But this was my number 2 this week, for sure.
And it's always like this arc in particular, he has me like peeking over to see who the next artist will be. Like, I'm excited in that aspect too. And
Yeah.
some of the next artists that we have, at least for the solicitations, are gonna be fun. Oh, it's Javier Pina next month, and Sophie Campbell on the following one. And I'm a big Sophie Campbell fan. Nice to see her, at DC.
You know what? This would have been pick of the week, but a surprising lack of half gloves.
Well, what's up, Gavin? You still here, buddy? Huh? Huh?
Hey, he went above and beyond the Comics Pals Call of Duty.
I like to imagine the art was done. He's like, actually, wait, sorry. You know what? I'm just that. I really need to fix that. Give me like 5 minutes.
Like, hey, Robbie, did you get that memo I emailed you a couple days ago?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I got a favor for some guys I know.
The editors were telling me, and they just couldn't find your email at the time, so I just sent you one to help them out.
Like, in a weird way, we're a part of the history of this book.
Yeah.
Like, my obsession with half gloves.
Let's be
Oh, here you
specific, Sean.
go.
We're not a history of this book. Your kink is a history of this book.
Gavin says they come back next issue. So
there it
you're
is.
welcome.
Beautiful.
Ooh, along with a fun cameo. Emma
Love the
Frost in a
tease.
half glove. Turtle Power.
Saturnine.
Saturnine shows up in this
Saturnine.
universe.
Give me Saturnine, please, Gavin. No, well, I mean that's impossible. That's impossible.
Call up Brevoort. Let him know.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Quickly, before we move on, the issue ends with the question, what world is in you? Quickly, what
Ooh.
video game skin would your world be?
I know this one instantly. I would
Hit
just
me.
go to Roger Rabbit's Toontown.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it.
There's
ton of
no
sense.
other option.
Or the
for me.
Muppet world, or
Yeah. Well, Well, no, I think it would be more cartoony. I want Toon Physics.
yeah.
I'm a sucker for a Metroidvania. I'm gonna do some kind of like pixelated Metroid Fusion type.
Oh,
Wouldn't it be great if somebody tackled this issue as a side scroller and it was all from that perspective and having to do that?
Whoa. That's basically what that Nightwing issue was.
I mean, a 2D platformer side scroller is essentially broken down like a comic in a way too, in terms of narration. Interesting.
You add the panels, you add the time.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately for me, if I walk through the portal, I'm ending up in the world of Warcraft. Unfortunately.
It's the dark portal for Sean.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
But I like low res, kind of like low poly World of Warcraft.
Like
He's-
old World of Warcraft.
Sean,
Yeah.
Sean looks at himself and he's vanilla female dwarf, and it's like, oh man.
I think mine might be a Western, sort of on the same level as Sean. It's just like, look, I can't escape it.
Right? It's like not necessarily what I want, but it is going to be what it is.
Yeah.
So Dan says, now I'm dying to read the next issue. Does Sean show up? Dude, so I've been in one comic before.
Yeah.
If I were to end up in a DC comic book or a Marvel comic book, I might lose my mind. Like my head top might come
They
off.
have contests for that people join.
Right? I would love that.
Hey, Comic Pop, what's up?
Hey, Comic Pop, how's it going? Good to see you. Comic Pop
Yo.
is here. Huge
Wow.
shout out to Sal and Tiff and the whole gang. My favorite comics podcast. Love you guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Appreciate that. Let's get into Scarlet. Double dose of Kelly this week. We talked about Birds of Prey. Let's get into Scarlet.
Rounding out the Kelly Thompson Power Hour.
Right? Which if we don't speed it up, we will be talking about Kelly's work for an hour. So of course, Kelly Thompson with art by Marco Ferrari, colors by Lee Lowridge, letters by Russ Wooten. This is, of course, from Skybound in the G.I. Joe universe. But I'm happy to report, as with all the other books in the Energon universe so far, there's literally no barrier to entry as far as knowledge. This is a straightforward espionage, spy, sort of story, where Scarlet is on a mission. She's a government operative on a mission. She sees an old friend, an old ally, and seeing that person turns this whole mission on its head for her, and it puts her in a situation where now she's actually gonna be getting closer and closer to the middle of this whole Energon universe thing. And I love the fact that from the word go, this feels like a Kelly Thompson book. You know, it's got the style, it's got the sex appeal, it's got the deep character work, it's got a great friendship between two characters, and it's got these amazing different locations. It's just everything. It's a great comic.
As soon as I saw Scarlet undressing to get out of the scuba suit into like a dress, I was like, oh yeah, Kelly wrote this. Like,
Right?
like it has a certain, like, if you read Kelly's books, you understand what is a Kelly trope, and that was one of them, and I really enjoyed it. And like, man, this book was fun. Like, I feel like I'm the target audience for this Energon universe, not to center myself on the discussion, but I'm an activated comics reader that is not familiar with this world outside of knowing it exists and maybe 4 or 5 characters. I am loving all the G.I. Joe books that they're putting out, which is a sentence that feels weird coming out of my mouth, if I'm being honest.
In this, the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, right? Like, if anything, that was behind us,
Yeah,
I didn't think I'd be enjoying a book about the military-industrial complex, but here I am. Yeah, it's just super fun. This is like, this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith without the Mr. It's just a fun spy book, and there's like this weird a woman, like a female friendship as the core, which is what Birds of Prey is as well. And that being like the core tenet of the book, and all the action is built around it. It's just great. And then you threw Silver Shadow in there, one of the 4 characters I actually recognize, and I was like, yeah, I'm in. You got me.
I didn't realize that was just a friendship. I thought it was like a romantic relationship.
I felt like they don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I feel like we only got the friendship aspect of it, but I saw college roommates maybe.
Sure. Yeah, I think this was pick of the week for me. It was just back to back, kind of nonstop action. The slower bits were just to give you context into what the next mission was going to be. I was, the edge of my seat this entire. I breezed through this issue. So much fun, and I think I didn't realize that this would be that sort of spy angle, because I've been reading the all of the 007 books. I haven't picked up since PKJ picked up a couple months back. That was like fine, and this felt like it helped to plug that need, because I haven't picked it up in quite a while, and this was just like, oh cool, we're infiltrating this. You give me my mission details. We gotta sleuth our way into the situation, and then the way it ends with her presenting herself as some sort of necessary asset. Like, cool, we're flipping the script, we're getting deep in. Let's go.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Kelly Thompson issue number 1, at least, without a fight sequence that utilizes the Luca effect, which she swears by.
That's what's up. Yep.
It's sick as hell. I mean, I'll show it.
Yeah.
Why not? It's really cool. You guys want to buy the book for art like this, for scenes like this. It's just I think this might be, alongside, I guess, Transformers number 1, my favorite of the number 1s that we've gotten in the Energon universe so far. And maybe even more than Transformers number 1.
It's more accessible than Transformers number 1, I feel. And I say that because Transformers was also accessible, but like, this is just meat and potatoes good stuff.
Yeah, this was my pick of the week. This also had me like, it feels more grounded than everything else we've read this week, but it was more I don't know, it felt like there was more personality to it, like more I don't quite know what to put here, but like I could see this movie. You know, like
Mhm.
the girl that plays Kate Bishop in the MCU. What's her name? Haley something?
Steinfeld.
Yeah.
Haley Seinfeld. She does. I know it's not Stein. I know it's not Seinfeld. Um, I saw her, you know, playing Scarlet, and like I could see this whole thing. Like I heard her voice, and I like all of this. Like it felt like a fun, cool sort of college girl is a spy film that just like felt hip and cool, and you know, like I really enjoyed it.
Man, Hasbro's clipping this, sending it to the big wigs. I mean, we know why they're doing this. Let's be real.
Is this what Black Widow is like?
The Kelly Thompson Black Widow comic, or
Yeah.
you know, with the Marvel trappings and things like that. Yeah, similar, I would say.
Okay.
And that's a great run too that I think people should pick up. This is going to be a mini series, so Kelly has a lot of ground to cover, and I think that including the flashbacks was so important.
Yeah. And the tool she establishes in these flashbacks, I think, helped a lot as well. She establishes that Scarlet and her
Jinx.
friend Jinx, they have developed a secret code between them. And they basically talk to each other through that. And so throughout the issue, Jinx is telling Scarlet not to follow her, and you know, she's trying to keep her at arm's length. But she also knows that there's absolutely no way that Scarlet is going to do that.
Yeah, that was smart too, and I think it was smart in the sense that it allows them to have communication, but it also helps to further establish how deep their relationship is.
Yeah.
Just great work, top of the line work. Kelly Thompson is, I mean, how is she not on everybody's top 5 list right now?
She might have the most single nominations in a year for one writer in Eisner's history, too. At least since I've been keeping track of it.
Zoe Thorogood had more.
A single year? Okay.
She had 6.
Wow.
Maybe I'm
Hey,
thinking for
wow.
multiple different things, but yeah.
Yeah, easy pull. Another book that could be pick of the week on most weeks.
And I know we complain about like at Marvel and DC like miniseries, but I kind of like how Energon's doing it. Like I know that I have a Destro one coming up by Dan Waters and the guy who did Birthright with Williamson. I kind of like that because I know I'm gonna get one whole story,
Mhm.
and I'll have a good book if I wanted to pick it up down the line, and then they will tie into each other for something else. So I don't know. I'm digging the way they're setting up this whole universe too.
And I wanted to quickly just linger on the art for the action moments, because I think one of the things that gets done is when a punch is getting thrown, a kick, the you translate that motion with like these squiggly lines that outline the actual shape of whatever is being thrown, the punch, right? You lose the form of the hand. Instead, you get these squiggles to denote, okay, there's movement here, there's action. And I thought using that in almost every single sequence was a really good idea, because it helps to communicate that, yo, she's throwing hands and they're coming quick. You're getting knocked out.
Great book. Great book. Can't wait for the next one. And I am actually genuinely very excited for G.I. Joe #1. Like, we
Okay,
know it's going to happen.
I was gonna ask, is that an announced thing?
No, but I mean, right?
It's G.I. Joe. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Yeah.
And I assume Josh Williamson is going to be the one to write that whole deal. No idea who would draw it, but if Scarlet had an order of 85,000 or 80K and Destro has 85K, then G.I. Joe #1 is going to blow the roof off the doors.
How much did you say?
I would say over 100K.
You gonna bet on that, John?
He's gonna be so mad.
I would bet on that. I mean, Thundercats did 175. They had the Liefeld cover, which helped, but Thundercats did 175. Space Ghost, I think, did was it 120? It might have been lower.
Okay,
But
okay, chat. Sean will be taking a bet with listeners.
over 100K, sure. If GI Joe #1 can't do 15,000 orders better than Destro, then I don't know what the fuck to say. Then clearly I don't know comics anymore.
Well, and with what they're establishing, like there's no way even people who aren't GI Joe fans are now reading Scarlet and they're GI Joe fans. So like those people are gonna pick it up. So
Yeah.
Also, the GI Joe character in this book named Snow Job.
yeah,
that got me. I'm like, oh, he was created in the 80s, wasn't he?
I love GI Joe names, man.
Intology says, howdy guys, love the Birds of Prey cover. Yeah, hello to you too. And the covers for Birds have been great for sure. What else? Dan Trudeau says, I might buy a GI Joe book for the first time since I was 11. You should go out and do that. I think if I had to recommend only one of the books, I would recommend this one right now. In terms of a #1, a place to start. Not because it's the most connected to everything, just because it's the one that I personally enjoyed the most. And I think you can get the most out of it without having to worry about anything else. I think all the other stuff is cool, and I want to see how it's going to integrate. But like Cobra Commander is very concerned with, the overall everything. Duke is concerned with that stuff. So like if you want to just sort of dip your feet into it with a great book, I think Scarlet is the best jumping on point from that respect. CW Gordon says, have no clue about GI Joe, haven't read any Energon stuff. This issue ruled. Hell yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yep.
And CW Gordon, I'm curious if you can mention in the chat why you picked this up if you're not reading any of the Energon books. What drove you to that? Was it us? Was it Kelly? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, Dan says I'm a Kelly Thompson fan. That's why I'm even considering it. Yep. I think that off the strength of her name, it's a buy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you add the art to it, forget it.
Oof. Yep.
Let's get into the listener pick of the week. This is the book that won the poll. The listener pick poll, which goes up every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 1 hour before we go live. The poll goes up. And before we talk about the book, which is, of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Alpha #1. Before we talk about that, I do want to quickly turn to the poll and run the books over and talk to you guys about what you should be voting on. Not that I'm telling you which book to vote for, but that you should be voting. Everyone who can hear me should be voting. And you can vote at youtube.com/thecomicspals under the community tab. So the options are Crocodile Black, which is the Philip Kennedy Johnson indie book. That's Crocodile Black #2 at only 8%. X-Men Heir of Apocalypse. That's the direct follow-up to the Apocalypse portion of X-Men 35/700. That is at 12% of the vote. So you guys are X'd out, apparently. God's #8. That's the finale issue of that book, 32%. And running the poll right now with a hefty 48% of the vote is Transformers #9, another Energon Universe book. I put the poll together anticipating that you guys would want us to read more Transformers. If that's the case, go run the numbers up. Vote your heart. I don't care what we end up reading off this list. But I can tell you that I'm interested personally in reading everything that's here. Except Gods. I'm not into Gods, really. But everything else, I'm
Surprised Gods is doing that well, honestly.
Yeah, I guess it's more popular than I think it is.
Did you say this is the finale, Sean?
I'm sorry?
Is this the finale of Gods? Did you mention that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. All right, let's see. Let's get into... Oh, by the way, all you people here, like the video. Hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, we're on the road to 3K, baby. Help us get there. We're trying to get to 3,000 subs. That's a big, nice, meaty number that we would love to hit. This Saturday, we are going to be presenting our post-mortem on the Cohen era. I have so many thoughts. I'm sure the rest of the pals do. From A to Z, from Hawks to Hawks to
Hawks.
pox to hawks to pox. We're gonna be getting into everything. Our pox, our hawks, whatever the fuck.
Bagels and locks.
So we've got a fun Saturday planned for you guys. Let's get into the last book of the night. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha. This is by another whole host of creators. We've got Jason Aaron, we've got Chris Burnham, Brian Reber. They did the Long Way Home story, which is the opening story of the book. And then the Mutant Island story, which is the bulk of the book, is by Tom Waltz, who wrote it with art by Gavin Smith and colors by Rhonda Pattison. Now, I haven't read a TMNT book in probably a decade-ish. I really liked it at a certain point. I remember like Old Hob, for example, who I don't even know from anything other than the books. But at a certain point, I felt that I had like gotten all that I was going to get out of it, and I dropped it. But I'm excited for the new era, so I wanted to pick this up and see what it was going to be. Well, we got a little bit of a tease of that with the Jason Aaron, Chris Burnham story. It's a Donatello story where he is separated from his brothers. He's in cage. He's caged. He's been captured, and it's him and these other animals that are captured in this like, this area that people go to hunt for sport. The shit reminded me of what's the fucking the Pokemon Safari, the Safari Zone where where you can go to just catch. You can catch Pokemon, but technically you can also just kill them if you want to. And that reminded
Throw
me of
rocks
this.
at him. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess you're right.
But like the Pokemon Safari Zone, the Tauros that you try to kill and capture there aren't having that shit, and neither was Donatello. And so he kicks some butt, but he is still captured, and I guess it's going to be down to the other turtles to help him out when we get the inevitable Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. What'd you guys make of this opening story?
I don't know. I like the Burnham art. That's what jumped out to me most. I really like Chris Burnham as an artist. And I thought the way he drew those other animals, like the panda, the otter, the other ones, were neat. I like the idea of the mutants. But I don't know. It's just tonally. I mean, I've not read a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics. So in my head, tonally, it's a mutant mayhem, and it's the cartoon. Like, that's what I hear. I picture the turtles being. So it being this dark thing was like kind of off-putting for me, even though I know historically it's always been that in the comics. So yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. I think there's enough there where I'm interested to see where else it goes, but I'm kind of in the middle on this issue.
I was disappointed. I've been looking for an entryway back into it because I've read some of the original stuff and then maybe a trade of when it relaunched a couple years back, and it was good, solid storytelling. And this felt slow. It the setting felt like, okay, I needed a bit of context for like why Donatello's even here, and at the end I'm like, oh cool, he's gonna escape, but we get just reset. And I guess to your point, it's so that the rest of the turtles can come save him. But if that's the case, I would have liked to have seen the turtles in this and them saving and then them going on a new adventure. I think that was the thing that didn't interest me. Was just the Donatello story, and not because it was Donatello, but because it was a singular turtle. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for their like their banter, for their interactions, for them to come and sort of save the day. So this didn't tease that out enough for me to go into that next issue where that's probably going to happen.
Go ahead, Cale.
I think for me, something that really bugged me was that Donatello has amnesia, but he remembers the name of his father, and he remembers he has brothers.
Yeah.
I'll even give him the kung fu. I think that makes sense, out of like muscle memory or whatever.
Yeah.
But his sort of selective amnesia within his inner monologue just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
and it sort of felt like a weird mm, oof, rookie mistake for Jason Aaron. I don't know. Maybe he's going for something here, but like it felt. I don't know.
I just don't really feel like this was the way to tease the future of the Turtles. I think most people who like this is it, right? Other than this, number one, or rather, other than issue one that we're going to be getting, this is the jumping on point for the Turtles. So for me, it's a little bizarre to start from this place. Um, just because it's very antithetical to what you think about when you think about the Turtles. So I just thought that that was a really odd place to kick things off. And then, honestly, it's not very much. Like it's just a few pages, whereas the rest of this is largely dedicated to the Mutant Island story, which doesn't feature any of the Turtles.
Yeah.
So I thought that that was a bit of an odd decision, and it made me wonder why we need this. Now, I guess because the mutant characters are, and all those supporting characters are important to the comic book world of the Turtles, you need to know who they are in order, I assume, to read the stories that are to come. But why can't we just be introduced to them through those stories organically down the road when we need them?
And also, I felt those first couple pages of that second story were the most exposition heavy things I read all week. Like everyone was yapping, everyone was speaking Japanese during those. Like the way they had those, it wasn't a recap page, but it was a recap page. But it was also character introduction pages. It was like the green, and it almost felt like a Spawn McFarlane news page.
Oh, I didn't bother.
It
I
took
didn't
me
do
longer
that.
to read those bios than the entirety of the Jason Aaron story.
Yeah. Once I
Yo.
realized what those were, I didn't read them.
Yep, I skipped right by. I'm like, who are these characters? Oh, okay, is there not another? This is all we got?
But then the subsequent pages continue to explain this whole world and everything that's going on in the most it was like they're assuming you didn't read anything, and we need to catch you up to every single little thing that's going on. Too much.
But it's the kind of exposition where the characters themselves are telling each other things that they already know as if they don't know them, or saying things like, as you know, blah, 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 blah. I hate an as you know exposition beat. I just can't stand that.
Also, just going back really quick to those bios. I don't know what's up with the production on that, but some of them aren't even the actual like heads. Like you see the first one, Lindsay Baker is just like part of a face and the microscope. Sally Pride is just a hand.
Not in my copy. Look at my
Detective
copy.
Kara Lewis. Oh, Jenica's not a thing.
Huh.
Yeah, look, mine is.
Yeah, no,
it's digital.
Mine was
maybe.
fine.
Huh.
That's odd.
Huh.
Like I didn't hate the second story, and I really like the Gavin Smith art. Like I know that Gavin has worked in this world quite a bit, and so he's adept at drawing these characters, and he's just really talented in general. Cale, go for it.
Well, I was gonna add to that. I think Tom Waltz has been along the ride the whole time too.
It just felt so expository, and it doesn't trust you at all to sort of pick things up, and it's telling you things that you truly don't need to know. Like I just, if a guy has on a military outfit, I assume he's a military guy. And then if he has, a relationship with old Hob, then they can meet each other and they can say things to each other that establish that they know each other. I really don't need the bios and the exposition. One or the other, preferably none, actually.
Like you have a human-sized hermit crab with a dumpster. He's got a dumpy on that shoots rockets. Like more of that. More of the Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Less.
Well,
Whoa, Sean, you got a little excited about the Spider-Woman.
No, because that was my favorite part, dude. Because I love Baxter Stockman. Baxter
Yeah, yeah.
Stockman is my favorite villain from the Turtles because he's the Fly. He's a genius who did too much and he turned himself into a disgusting creature. She did the same thing. I love stuff like that.
Speaking of Baxter, though, like, did you need a whole page of them describing that he's running for mayor when you could have shown a mayoral poster? Like, I just watched Back to the Future last week. Like, that shows the mayor race just by panning past it. You see, so and so running for mayor. Like, that's all you need from that. But I understand that because I'm looking at it.
Well, and there's so much telling you that 2 + 2 = 4, right?
Yeah.
But there's no, like, you're not having to work for almost anything.
It also never elevates past that from a dialogue standpoint.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't do anything with all the exposition that it gives us. It doesn't go anywhere. Like the fight is cool. The visuals are sick. Like that spider woman looks scary and creepy and awesome, but that's the art doing the heavy lifting. Meanwhile, there's all this dialogue that I just didn't really need. And when you're telling me that this book is going to cost, I mean, I don't even, what was this? What did I pay for this? $7, $6.99. And most of this is exposition that seems to set up. All this exists to do is set up TMNT #1 and Mutant Island #1. It's a $7 promotion for 2 different books that are coming out later. So basically, I didn't need to buy this, is what you're telling me. That's not cool, IDW. Outside of the Gavin Smith art and the Burnham stuff, I didn't get a lot out of this, and I really wanted to because I am excited for this new era. Like for me, this is a hard pass because there's no reason to drop the $6.99 when it's only teasing out things that are coming later and nothing else.
Man, and then, like, you compare that to the Energon stuff we just read with Scarlet. Like, as a starting point, I might have preferred something more akin to a reboot. Just as a new person coming into this, I would have preferred that than reading 5 pages of people explaining everything to each other about stuff I haven't read.
There's a middle ground. How about you just don't explain those
It's
things?
true.
You just tell a story.
I mean, you just read a comic, yeah.
Just get to, yeah.
Especially for something that's not a #1.
Right.
Like it's in this weird middle ground of not being a numbered issue. So why does it have to explain anything?
Yeah, it just didn't feel necessary. Yeah, like I hate to say it because I was actually pretty hyped for this and I would have bought it whether it won the poll or not. But this didn't do much for me in terms of getting me going for the next era by any means. Because I didn't understand why Donatello was in that position. And I don't know how much I care that he is, quite frankly. And then all the other stuff was fluff. I don't know what I was supposed to get out of this. So I say pass.
Yeah.
TMNT #1.
Yeah, I might wait for TMNT #1 as well. Although that Chris
Well,
Burnham
but-
sandwich he drew, that was a good looking sandwich.
But my worry now is, are we going to this is obviously going to continue that Donatello piece. Are we going to get more sort of dragging story? I'm a little nervous now.
Well, we know, I believe we know. Actually, let me not say because I don't recall fully. I believe what I know is that each of the first 4 issues will have a different artist, and that is going to serve as the first arc that will bring the turtles together.
Right.
Different
okay.
artists
Okay.
showcasing a specific turtle, yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone in the audience, have you guys kept up with the Turtles books? How did 150 end? And how does that compare here to where we think we're going?
Looks like Tilo might. He said Baxter is not transformed, by the way. He's running for president.
Wow.
So what? How is that? I would love for you to expand on that, Tilo, because because Baxter is a Fly, right? Are you saying that in this continuity that hasn't happened yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
From
He was a massive part, if I remember right. I think I read up to the Fugitoid stuff. in this run, which is, a good 6 or 7 volumes in. I think he had, he was a massive part of the turtles creation. So he's obviously a mad scientist. He's obviously, he helped the Krang, but he hasn't like crossed that, transformation bit yet.
Oh, I gotta go back, dude. I fucking love Krang too, man.
My man, this whole run, like this 150 issues, genuinely is good.
So
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I've only heard good
is
things about
number
this so far.
one of that like its own continuity? Like, is it a new fresh start, or does that?
It's fresh enough. Like it starts, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time since I read that number one. Raph doesn't have he kind of similar to this, I guess. He doesn't have his memory, but his family comes in, and it's a heartwarming story about how Raphael, remembers who he is. We get the turtles' origin, and they go from there. So I think it's slightly jarring in that, okay, I know who the turtles are. They're not wearing a mask, so I'm not positive which one it is. Okay, now I know where I am.
I see.
Tilo says that Donatello was lost in time. There was a flash forward at 150 that shows the turtles reuniting.
Okay, so they're separated at the end of 150, and they will be reunited.
They're
they're reunited in 150
in a flash forward.
Oh, yes. Okay, so right. So they have been separated. The flash forward shows that they will be reunited, and that's what we're going to get to.
That's how I interpret what Tilo's saying there.
Same. Yeah.
So then Tilo, does the state of Donatello in this issue make sense to you within the context of what you know? Because I'm having trouble figuring out how you end up time displaced and then you're in a safari zone.
He ends up at the Tiger King's place instead.
It's Florida, so that makes sense.
He's one of the Pokemon that Misty summons all of a sudden.
Yeah, Tilo's saying yes. So
cool. All right,
well,
thank you, Tilo.
I think Tilo was saying the yes to the flash forward bit.
Gotcha. Okay.
Capsule says, yeah, I felt like I wasted my money on this book. Yeah, unfortunately, I feel similarly, outside of the fact that you guys wanted us to read it. It just doesn't do enough to earn the dollar. And, I think IDW has to make sure, like, they have to look at what has been done by Skybound and take notes. And it's not about, like, I'm not trying to disrespect them or anything, but like I feel like Skybound's strategy so far has felt very respectful of my dollar.
Listen, even look across the fucking hall at the Star Trek office. Like,
sure. Yeah, you're totally right. The Star Trek stuff was great. Or has been great.
Tilo says there is something missing, but overall it does seem to make sense.
Okay. Thank you, Tilo.
Cliff also said each turtle has a distinct personality, so to get an occasional story of an individual is good if you get to see their personality come through to a depth you don't when they're together that you don't get to when they're with the rest.
I'm sure that you can always have like a one-off story, where some turtle or another is on their own. I just feel like for what this had to do, which in my mind, the mission statement of this is to get people excited for the number one that's coming out. I think you do that by enticing people with what they know and what they understand, and what we know and understand is that there are 4 brothers that work together. I don't know. I don't want to be overly critical, but
it is being written by Jason Aaron, like, which we should be excited about.
Right. Yeah. I'm with that. Pass.
Yeah.
Same
pass.
Okay. So I would love to talk about the X-Men more because I have an X brain right now, but we're going to save that for Saturday. We're going to save all that for the postmortem. All right. Because we've been at this for some time. Yes. That very easy thing to say.
Cool.
What we're going to do instead is we're going to get into the stack. You guys know how we do. Thursday nights, Pals Pulls, we get into the stack. This is the segment where you guys guess the amount of books that I bought this week. And whoever is closest without going over wins the Sean Stack game. That can either be a no prize for you, or you can claim any of the Marvel books that we didn't read on the show. You can claim the code for any of the Marvel books we didn't read on the show that reside in my stack. So let me see those numbers. Let me hear those numbers. What are you guys thinking this week? We got 30
Yeah.
plus of you still hanging with us. What's up?
Show is stacked, Dan. That is true.
I'm going to throw mine out there. Maybe throw some people off in the chat. I'm going to say 11.
Ooh.
I think there are some heavy hitters this week, but I think that's it.
Okay. Well, we
got
already know
deep.
6, so that means you only think Sean got 5 more on top of that?
That is correct. That is how numbers work. Correct.
Along with the fact, may I remind you that in the Discord this week, the mini DC books came out. And Sean put in the chat that he might make a second trip.
Making a second trip for Sean at the comic shop in the same week.
I might go middle of the road. I'm thinking of 13. 13's calling out.
Lucky number 13.
Okay.
Dan says 16. Gordon says 12. Rami has 14. Uncanny Suit apparently has never been here before. He's feeling a 9. James Jones says 16. Cole, a perennial winner, James Jones, by the way. Cole says 10. Columbo says 15.
Dan says 16 every week, right?
I think
Does
so. He's just
One day
shooting
he'll be
his
right.
shot with 16.
Let it ride. Let
yeah.
it ride.
He's
Gotta
been
be
right
right.
once. He's won before.
Aaron Ruiz says 18.
Ooh.
I'm
Man.
feeling 16. I'm feeling 16. Capsule's got 17.
Okay. All right. Those are the numbers we're gonna get. Those are the guesses. You guys want to keep them coming while we rattle these books off? Feel free. We've got the 6 we read for the show, so that's we're kicking it off with that. We have Amazing Spider-Man number 51. This is the Sinister Six versus the Spider Goblin. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it, as I do almost every single issue of Amazing. The Ed McGuinness art is fucking awesome. Todd Knock as well. You really can't do a lot better than that. Jesus,
Right.
look at this page.
Even by that cover. Ooh.
God.
Look at this.
Ooh.
Come on now. That design for the Spider Goblin costume is sick.
Simple.
This is amazing. Yeah, it's good stuff. So I had a blast
Even
with that.
That
Even
should have
that
won the poll.
cover is fire.
We've got Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, number 1.
Jerry Duggan.
Jerry Duggan.
Hell of a title.
Yep. He has ascended to go and see if he can make a hit outside of Marvel, as Gillen has. And if they are unable to succeed at that, expect that they will be a part of the next Krakoan age or the next whatever age.
Wish
Hopefully
he would,
it's good.
wish he would ascend to a TV career so I don't have to read his books anymore.
That's rough. Space Ghost, number 2.
Oh, with the Johnny Quest preview.
Yeah,
Ooh.
look at that top part. Yeah.
Damn.
Hell yeah. I didn't get to this yet, but I am excited to read it. I thought Space Ghost number 1 was pretty cool. So
Not
I do want
to-
to read that.
Not to put you on blast, but when you read that, will you put that in the Discord?
Yeah.
and and if you forget, I won't mention it. Because after this, I will also forget. And
Cale, wasn't I supposed to remind you of something?
that I have remembered.
Okay.
So
It's hard because right now I am neck deep in X-Men books.
yeah.
So frankly, I don't even have time for Space Ghost, but
yeah.
I will read it and I will report back on the Discord. That's it.
Whoa, that was 3?
Whoa.
Wait, who said 9?
9
Someone said
books.
9.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
yeah. It
Uncanny
was-
Suit.
Yeah, he said feeling a
Wow.
9, and he was on the money. Uncanny, great job.
Man.
Yeah.
What a number.
For
can't-
me, this was not a big week, even though it was a big week for comics.
You dropped Kaya?
Wow.
No, I didn't. Oh my God. Hold on. Oh,
Sorry, whoever
might
won
have
that, I
a,
just ruined it for you. I
yeah.
apologize.
Ooh, sorry,
Cole.
suit.
Cole,
might
if he
have,
got it.
Depends on how many issues he got.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Wow. I cannot believe he done threw
pulled
his
his whole
headphones across
No,
the room.
nope, that was a head
Wow.
nod. Nope.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I fucked up. Because that's not
He's
all
got-
the books I bought this week.
He's got a whole different stack across the room.
That's not all the books I bought this week.
He got books he doesn't even know about.
So I also have Kaya number 19. I'm sorry,
Knew
Uncanny,
it,
but
knew it.
I have Kaya number 19. And I also have Get Fury number 2.
Wow.
So the actual count is 11. Sorry for the fake
11.
out
I
there.
got it. Yes.
No.
Wow.
This
Yup.
is why you always speak
So
up for
against that?
yourselves. Stick up for yourselves, and good things will happen, everyone.
So
So
what did you guess,
even-
Tyler?
11.
yeah,
I guessed
11.
11.
Oh,
Yeah, you
there
got it.
go.
Everyone else.
So not only did Sean mess up, even worse, Tyler got it.
Well, on this panel, Tyler got it, but community wise, CW Gordon had a 12. So he was closest without going over. So you win.
Well, Cole
CW.
got a 10.
He went over.
Yeah. No. I had but wait, I'm
Wouldn't
sorry.
it be?
It'd
Wouldn't
be
it
Cole.
be Cole gets it
Oh,
because
that's
He
right.
didn't
Gordon
go over.
went
He didn't
over?
go over.
Right,
Yes,
right.
okay,
Absolutely.
correct.
So
correct.
Cole's
Yep.
got it.
So Cole
Cole's
wins.
got it. Cole,
Congratulations,
there it is.
Cole.
Wow.
Cole, if you want to claim what do I have here? Spider-Man or Get Fury, you can feel free to message me and you will get one of those codes. Sorry guys, that I
Incredible. What
added a
an
little
upset.
drama there at the end. But
This is like that Oscars where who was it? Steve Harvey read the wrong one.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they were
yeah,
like,
that's it.
"Oh wait, actually."
Yo, James Jones, the fake out, a new stack feature.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
That's right.
Rami Darwish, I just
Damn.
want to call you out in the chat real quick for mentioning my bookshelf organization, why Green Lantern is before Batman. Do not look into that. There is no organization, so it's best to not think about that.
Same reason Hellboy's in front of Green Lantern.
Uh-huh. Yep. That's why The Walking Dead is right in front of Pulp. That makes sense.
I'm so sorry, Uncanny.
He was bamboozled. Speckledorfed.
Collusion. Recount.
Oh shoot. Tilo says next week is stacked for me. So what are you saying? Oh, you have a lot of books coming out next week that you're looking at getting? Well, let me tell you guys what we're going to be reading, what's on our stack for the show next week. Because we've got some interesting books we're going to be talking about. We've got Blood Hunt number 3 that we're going to be getting into. Ultimate X-Men number 4, Geiger number 3. And I have Lawful number 1 on here, but I think I'm going to change it because there is a book coming out next week that caught my eye just a little bit more. So that would be, of course, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age number 1. A mouthful to say, but it is the first in the, if I'm aware, the first in the Elseworlds, the Elseworlds relaunch that DC is doing. So we're gonna have to talk about that.
The
yeah.
preview was in the backup of Batman, but it was a preview, not a backup. Thank God. Look good.
Right.
Look nice.
Hell yeah, it looked nice. It's got that Leandro Fernandez art on it with Dave Stewart on the colors. Andy Diggle on the words. Andy Diggle, let's go, dude.
Yo, you get hype for Diggle, huh?
Yes.
You big Shadowland fan?
Yes.
Oh.
Literally, let me tell you.
Let me tell something to
Literally,
you.
when Brubaker's Daredevil run was going on, I wanted to get in on it so badly, but I didn't know how or where. So when he was off the book and Diggle came on, I was like, yes, I get to be a part of it too. I get to join in on all the Daredevil fun. And then Shadowlands happened. I still liked it. I liked it.
I still read it. His Thunderbolts is underappreciated. I'll give him that.
He killed it on Thunderbolts 2. I've been waiting for this, man. I don't know where Andy Diggle has been, but I'm glad he's coming back, and I'm excited for this book.
He was living
Green
by
Arrow.
gaslight as research.
There you go.
Shadow Yan, yuck.
Ah, come on. Nah, it's okay. It deserves the negative flowers, if you will. The coal. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We're going to call it a night. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, especially you warriors that stuck it out with us through this whole deal. We appreciate you so much for showing up to hear us talk about comics. Make sure you are with us Saturday at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. We are going all the way in on the end of the Krakoan era. We are looking at it from A to Z. We have thoughts. I am neck deep in my reread, and I will emerge from that a new Sean. Sean to the power of 10, if you will.
Oh.
Can't wait.
I think we'll still be in the house of Sean.
For how much longer remains to be seen. Until then, take care, guys.
See you next week.